Charlie Crist conceding the race for governor. He'll be walking down the wedding aisle, his words, but his third trip down the statewide political aisle since his one term as Florida governor from 2007 to 11 ends in defeat. First in the Senate, then in his race in 2014 against then incumbent Rick Scott, and now tonight decisively in the race for governor against Ron DeSantis, who is a double-digit winner, as we're joined by our panel again, Michael Barnett, chairman of the Palm Beach County Republican Party, outgoing Palm Beach County Commissioner, and Democrat Melissa McKinley. We thank you for being with us, term limited. So moving on, and of course our longtime News Channel 5 political analyst. We'll begin with you, Mr. Crist remarks, and you heard Val Demings conceding the race, Val Demings, excuse me, and we're waiting to hear from both Senator Rubio and of course Governor DeSantis. Your thoughts?
I'm not entirely surprised by the Crist loss. DeSantis had the momentum going into this race. I am a little surprised. Val Demings, I mean, if the Democrats couldn't have a more perfect candidate in Val Demings to run for the U.S. Senate, I don't know what else we need to do. She was the perfect candidate, but the voters spoke, and welcome back to the Senate to Marco Rubio.
Michael Barnett.
Again, no surprise here, and at some level, I don't even think Charlie Crist even think he was going to win this race.
But what's going on with the messaging? As Brian said, and we'll hear from Brian in a moment, used to argue this was a purple state. Clearly right now it feels much more like a red state. What is the messaging Republicans are getting through to voters across the state that Democrats are not? First you, Michael, then Commissioner McKinley, then our analyst Brian Crowley.
Well, I think it's a loud and strong message from Palm Beach County. We see Rubio and DeSantis winning the popular vote in Palm Beach County, a majority of the vote, and we haven't seen that in a really long time. There's a message that they're not happy with how the country is going, led from the top, from the White House, and it was reflected in the people's votes this Tuesday and during early voting. Not
happy on what issues that you think are key as you talk to constituencies?
Well, the economy, gas prices, food prices, supply chains. The lack of freedom. We have a lot of voters coming from out of state, moving to Palm Beach County to get away from the lockdown culture and a lot of the oppression they've experienced in states like New York and California due to the Governor DeSantis' policies that have attracted them, and they're voting in accordance with their wishes to live in a free state, the free state of Florida.
Commissioner?
It's more basic. I mean, the Republican Party had a message, the Democratic Party had no message. And,
how do you mean that when you say that? Interesting for a Democrat to say that. What's your critique?
I mean, we've been tone deaf. We focus on these uber left progressive ideas instead of focusing on the economy and what matters. Look, I'm a single mom. What matters to me is my rent went up 25% last year. Grocery bills are higher. Trying to cover my kids and pay for their college tuition. That's the message that we need to be portraying, and the Democratic Party fell flat this year.
Stand by as we're waiting to hear from Senator Marco Rubio and Governor Ron DeSantis. Brian, you've listened, you heard the concession speeches, you've heard our fellow analysts. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I agree completely. The Democratic message was very, very weak. And as they were speaking, I was looking, Ron DeSantis is leading with 58% of the vote. He's he apparently has won Dade County. And the last Republican to win Dade County was Jeb Bush in 2002. So it's been 20 years.
Second run, yeah.
20 years but also looking at county commission races in what's supposed to be a solidly Democratic county. Republicans are leading in 2 of the county commission races.
Name them for those who.
Marsha Woodward is, I'm reading my own scribble here, 54% over Robert Weinroth. 48%, Michelle McGovern is at 47%, and Sarah Baxter's at 53%, and nearly all the precincts are in. So,
Sarah Baxter, a newcomer to Republican ranks, should she be elected? You were very clear. You had endorsed her. That's your district, the largest district in Palm Beach County, representing a wide swath of this county, from the suburbs of Wellington, on Waxahachie, out to areas where tough issues out in the Glades. Your thought? How surprised are you if that number holds up?
If that number holds up, I'm surprised that was the margin. I thought that Michelle would have won by 3 or 4 points. So surprising, we went into, they did some polling in this district pretty early on. DeSantis was up by 14 in that poll. Michelle was up by 6, the last polling that her campaign did. And those numbers made me nervous, and that seemed to prove correct tonight.
Goes to your wider argument that you thought, at least on a statewide basis, Democrats didn't resonate. And of course, the governor with long coattails we're seeing tonight, Democrat Melissa McKinley, joining us as an outgoing Palm Beach County Commissioner. Michael, your take. A lot of people argued throughout this cycle that sooner or later some Floridians would say, we're tired of the culture wars. We're also waiting to stand by, so we'll have to keep it brief. Senator Marco Rubio about to come up, but he fought as somebody who was against masks, was against COVID, mandatory policy on masks, against closures on COVID, a culture warrior on issues involving schools and business and the like, and it paid off for him.
With 58% of the vote, absolutely it paid. That was a red wave that he created that our local candidates, as you mentioned, Marcy Woodward and Sarah Baxter, were able to ride. There has to be a red wave, but you need someone, a good candidate, hard-working candidates like Sarah Baxter and Marcy Woodward, who can get on that surfboard and ride that wave to victory, which they've done tonight.